Greetings. Trying to make sure that I am live on Facebook because sometimes the stream will revert to where only certain people can see it. So I want to make it public. Excuse me, y'all. I'm trying to edit and speak at the same time. So I wanted to make it public so that more people can see it and can also share it because I love sharing information. I love sharing what I learn with other people, right? I want to make sure that we all know what's really going on, right? Hold on 1 second, family. Here I am. Okay. So today I want to talk about Ella Baker. She is one of my favorite people once I started learning about her and what she did, her mission, passion, and her purpose. I made it my business. I didn't mind my business. I made this my business to learn of her and her work so that I could, add her as one of the ancestors on whose shoulders I stand. And so I'm noticing, on my StreamYard, it shows you how many viewers and whatnot. So I do kind of want to wait a little bit. And while I'm waiting, I want you all to know that I'm here in Coldwater at our culture center. Behind me, you can see our retail space, Sankofa Soul Shop. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about a book uh, that was written about her life that is available at the Sankofa Soul Shop. So, while y'all are out here spending all your money or buying gifts, you should give the gift of education. You should give the gift of books to anyone, not just the children, but to yourself as well this season. I know during Kwanzaa, the 6th day that we learned about yesterday, we learned that on the 6th day, that is the day that we celebrate. We have our feast and we give zawadi, which are gifts, meaningful gifts, not just gifts to be given someone, not just things that are going to be thrown away and tossed to the side a few days later, but we want to express our appreciation to people through gifts that are needed, right? And we always need to learn about us, and books, children's books especially, have provided myself a great gateway to learning more about who we are, our story. And so I encourage those who are watching to look at the Sankofa shop and what we have to offer as far as books. Because one thing I want to do is specialize in children's books, books by, for, and about us. Because as I have come in contact with young adults, I find that most of them think reading is boring and it is not necessary, um, but it is. And so the books that we have here are interesting because they're by, for, and about us. So I'm going to move forward with the live. I want to talk about Mama Ella Baker. And as you can see on the screen, I have one of her most famous quotes, right? It says, until the killing of Black men, Black mothers' sons become as important to the rest of the country as the killing of a white mother's son, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until this happens. And this was said in 1964. So many times we think that we are doing better or that times have changed. But really, if you keep your eyes and ears on the pulse of the nation and on societal news, you will know and understand because understanding is different than knowing, right? You will understand that times have not changed. This was 1964. How many years ago was that, right? Like 58 years ago, 57 years ago, 59 years ago? Not many. We all know somebody that's 60 years old, right? So just think about that. Think about the person that you know that's 60, 61, and think about this was said that in this person's lifetime, right? So Mama Ella Baker, she is known as the mother of the civil rights movement. She entered the physical realm on this day, December 13th, 1903, in Norfolk, Virginia. She attended the HBCU Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And when she finished, she had heard a lot of stories about uh, slavery and had witnessed oppression herself. And so she knew that she wanted to do something to help for real, free Black people for real, not just in word, but she wanted to do something in deed. And so she got involved with the NAACP. She would then become involved with the Student uh, Christian Leadership, SCLC, that was then headed by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so she would be frustrated. She would get frustrated with a lot of the hierarchical um, involvement. It was hard for them to reach the people on the ground. But then one day she learned about some students from North Carolina, A&T, who had staged some sit-ins, right? And so she saw the potential of the youth. And she knew that the youth had to become an integral part of the movement. And so she invited the youth to one of the SCLC's meetings, and that is how SNCC was born, the Student Nonviolent Coordinated Committee was birthed from that meeting. And so Mama Ella would be one of the advisors to the youth as they would traverse the South to get people involved in the political process. Now, when I was reading and studying, there were two facets of SNCC. One was to make people aware what was going on, and the other was voter registration. And we hear a lot about the voter registration, especially here, because they spend a lot of time in the Mississippi Delta. And so this is why our story and teachers of our story need to be heard, because there's a sentiment that our ancestors made all these mistakes, that the criticism of our ancestors is rampant. And I know it's because, and it's a testament of our miseducation, right? Because once you begin studying and knowing who these people are, our ancestors were not punks. They did not live in fear, and they did a lot more with a much less, right? They actually have given you the freedom to criticize them, right? Because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't think you know so much and have the knowledge, or have the I would say audacity to criticize them in the level that they have been criticized. Yes, there were some mistakes that were made, but instead of using that as a criticism, we need to use it as a catalyst, right? We need to take those mistakes and learn from them and act on them. We just talking about the mistakes. We're not even acting on them. So yeah, so SNCC spent a lot of time in the Mississippi Delta, and if you have not already, you need to purchase We Will Shoot Back, and that will be available at St. Cover Shop as well. Now, We Will Shoot Back is written by, we call him Baba AK, Dr. Akinyele Umoja. He wrote about the Mississippi Black Power movement, the freedom movement in this book. And he uh, traversed the South, the Mississippi Delta, to find these stories. You'll find stories like Mama Janie Brewer. You'll find stories of E.W. Steptoe, of, of, of different people in the Mississippi Delta who were not afraid and who defended themselves. You'll learn about the Deacons of Defense. You'll learn about Skip Robinson and others. And Mama Ella Baker is mentioned in the book because she was the voice of wisdom, reason behind the activism in the Mississippi Delta. And so, we talk a lot about Stacey Abrams, but we tend to forget that before Stacey Abrams, we had mamas like Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker. These are the shoulders on which Stacey Abrams stands. Because when you think about Mama Ella Baker and Mama Fannie Lou Hamer, they did a whole bunch of organizing without funds, right? So they didn't have the funds of the white establishment or these white liberals behind them when they were getting our people registered to vote. And not only were they getting our people registered to vote in a very hostile, much hostile uh, environment that we're living in right now. It's hostile, but it was blatantly hostile when SNCC was active in the Delta. uh, they were teaching our people. They were giving them a political education that goes with the voting process. So, we understood then that voting was just one part of the puzzle, right? One piece of the puzzle. And so if you would go back and look at I think the title of the documentary is Black Power in Lawrence County. Now, Lawrence County is in Alabama, but they do mention Stokely Carmichael does mention his work in Mississippi as well. But they taught our people how to be actively involved in not just voting, but what do you do once you get that right? You find viable candidates to fill these offices, right? And fill these spaces, especially if you live in a densely populated area that's densely populated with Black people. We need to control those offices and the politics of those spaces. And so SNCC did much more work, groundwork, a lot of groundwork. And it says nonviolent, but trust and believe that people armed and protected themselves. Uh, it's like uh, Mr. Turnbow. I can't think of his first name, but he told Martin Luther King, he was in the Mississippi Delta himself. He told Martin Luther King Jr., hey, that nonviolent stuff will get you killed. And so there's a book by the same title, That Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed by Charles Cobb. And it's the story of his time in the Mississippi Delta under the leadership of Mama Ella Baker. And so, when I think about Mama Ella and I think about organizing, because she was a firm believer that we needed to work as a village, as a community in the work. And when you really understand that, you know that that's just who we are anyway. And so we just kind of mimic what we see when we feel like we had to have, this strong, charismatic leader, which is good because she was a leader herself, right? But then the work, you can't, you tell them what to do, you teach them how to do it, and they do it. And so we have to be united in the cause and in our thought process because what her words, as I said, 1964, they're still relevant to this day, right? And so we have to be unified. I'm going to play a short clip that I found where she speaks to that. And it just reminds me because y'all know I'm in Tate County. I live in Senatobia, and right now I'm at the center in Coldwater. Both are in Tate County, and there we have a situation with one of my favorite people, one of my comrades, Brother Mark LaSure, where the police just basically bust into his home illegally, uh, not unlawfully, right? Illegally, and uh, arrested him, and he has multiple charges he's being faced with. And I was just talking and thinking, they set his bond, and we should be at a place as a community when these things happen to our brothers and sisters that we should be able to respond just like that as soon as we know. We got this thing of sharing. We think social media is going to save us, and it's not. Right? You can make people aware of what's going on or what's happening via social media, but the real work is going to take some boots on the ground. It's going to take some money. I love people that share my content, but those shares don't pay the rent, right? My landlord is not going to say, "Oh, you got 15 shares on Facebook, so your rent, I'll just waive your rent." No, the shares are great to bring awareness again, but we had to start supporting people where it really is the most effective, right? It's the most effective, because I don't want people walking away thinking, "Oh, she don't appreciate any." I do appreciate it, but we got to be more effective. So I said all that to say that while we're sharing information about our comrade, about our brother, we need to start really thinking about how, as a community, we can have the resources at the ready so that when these situations happen, when they occur, we can be right there with our demands, right? We can start really responding instead of reacting, right? So, y'all, I don't see anybody on my live. I know Facebook has this algorithm thing. I don't see anybody responding or even reacting. And that's okay, because I'm going to keep it up and I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to keep talking, because one of the reasons why Mama Ella's words are, they still resonate with us, is because it's still happening, because we haven't done anything to change our condition or our situation. It may look like we have, but at the end of the day, we haven't. If somebody, police officers can still bust up in somebody's house without any recourse or any hesitation and say, "Everybody get out," and start ravaging your home. And then, well, they have to have a search warrant. Okay, then they get a search warrant. And then the courts, I'm looking up at Mama Ida B. Wells, who said those who commit the murders write the reports. So who's going to enforce, or who's going to hold them accountable if they are writing the reports as well? And so we have to organize, and we have to be adamant. We have to be adamant about what it is that we are demanding, right? So I just wanted to introduce y'all to a little bit more to Mama Ella Baker, what she stood for. She was a great organizer. She was a great teacher, and I'm gonna say is, because her spirit still resonates. Today, when I woke up, I thought about her, and I knew it was her day. And so I was like, I just need to hear her voice. I just need to feel her energy. And so I played a couple of YouTube clips with her voice on it, because as I move into another season of my life, I'm really studying our great ancestral women, people like Ella Baker, people like Sojourner Truth, people like Mama Ida B. Wells and Fannie Lou Hamer, and Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, Marva Collins. And I'm also looking at some elders. I've been watching the second season of High on the Hog, and I'm looking at Mama Jessica, and I'm looking at some of the other elders that are featured throughout the series. And I told my oldest daughter yesterday, I'm like, I'm really studying her. I'm really listening to her. I'm really hearing her. I'm really watching her as she speaks with such wisdom and grace. And I want to model myself after these great women. I want to be effective in my teaching and righteous and genuine, and really raise up a generation of thinkers, of doers, of creativity, right? Creativeness. And so these women um, should be studied. They should be the ones that we're looking to instead of these celebrities who don't know shit, who ain't gonna do shit, and um, who don't really have a love for us as a collective. So yeah, so that's gonna be my mission is to study these great women and what they stood for and how they moved. So Mama Ella Baker, I salute you today, every day, but especially today, because it is this day that you graced us with your presence in the physical realm and so much more that you gave us. So much more that you gave us. You need to be studied. You need to be imitated and emulated and celebrated, right? You. So I'm going to end and I'm going to play a clip that I found because it was so profound and so powerful to me that I want to share it with y'all. Hold on, family. That's not the right one. Here it is.